What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your more phenomenal host, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode review for DonBrothers, episode number 3 as we continue along with this season. One that I'm thoroughly enjoying so far. I think the pacing for this show is exactly what I was certainly looking for. A great balance between drama and humor, a great balance between discovering brand new characters, the personalities of some of the villains that we're getting in here, definitely touches of some mystery and some questions that I definitely have, but I'm really enjoying the pacing of how some of the things are being revealed to us and how the story winds up progressing so far. So 3 episodes in, I've been really pleased with it. We don't even really have a true sort of concrete team, even though we are officially being introduced to everybody. This is the first time I believe that everybody is fully together. No, that's not true. They did fight side by side in the previous episode, but we do wind up getting some of the remaining teammates that aren't focused on too much in this episode sort of pop up at the end towards the battle, so it doesn't feel like we are in a very organized team as of right now, with people just kind of popping in and out whenever they certainly need to. So we'll see how the formula for the remainder of this season winds up holding up, but so far 3 episodes in, guys, I'm really enjoying what we wind up having and really thankful for the writer certainly attached to this season and making it certainly feel significantly different than what we wind up getting with Zenkaiger. So let's go ahead and dive into this episode, guys. Remember, at the end of the day, these are just simply my A+ opinions, but I certainly want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known in a live chat or the comment section box below, especially if there's any character moments or storyline details that I might wind up missing or skipping over. If you guys want to further continuing discussing those things, we can definitely go ahead and do so in the comment section after this video airs. But one of the things that really jumped out at me in this episode was probably the partnership between Haruka, aka Oni's sister, along with Momotaro, aka Don Momotaro, as the search for Momotaro continues from Haruka, as she's certainly trying to turn her fortunes around, and she winds up bumping into Momotaro once again in the process of delivering some packages. So the fact that Momotaro's realizing, hey, there's a little bit of a bond here between you and me. Clearly we keep bumping into each other, and Haruka maybe kind of taking those advances or this bond of theirs and maybe a little bit of a creepy manner, thinking that Momotaro has different intentions, as she's completely trying to avoid any sort of personal connection with him, but even to the point of advising him who she's looking for in Momotaro. I am surprised that he didn't just come out and say, oh, that's me, but even trying to attempt to do so by showing Haruka his badge, she winds up cutting him off immediately. So we do get that sort of quirky identity reveal at the end, that the person she's been hanging out with all episode long is the person that she's been trying to find this entire time. So I thought that was actually pretty interesting in regards to seeing how the relationship is certainly developing, because yes, there is quite a bond between these two, and certainly for very good reason. And by the end of this episode, Haruka certainly recognizes that enough, and really taking Jin's advice in regards to kneeling before Don Momotaro when she realizes who he certainly is, pledging her fealty towards him and things like that also, but maybe not necessarily quite the reception that I personally thought. I did feel some type of way about Don Momotaro just sort of kicking her to the side. Like, I get it when it's the brain people or the brain persons, whoever the villains certainly are, but when she's been spending so much time to try and find this person to have this bond with, now finally meeting him and getting treated the same way, I don't necessarily know how I feel, because I will say this: Don Momotaro's personality does feel significantly different to me than when he is in his henshin form compared to his civilian mode, right? The idea that we get to see these two characters in Haruka and Momotaro delivering packages together in this episode, seeing the sort of difficulties that might come with being a delivery person, not knowing who you're gonna bump into during your day, right? The idea that Haruka winds up getting harassed by these guys that she's trying to deliver a package for, and see somebody like Momo try to come in and protect her, failing to do so by wind up getting knocked out. But we eventually come to find out that he's actually a non-fighter, right? So there definitely is a very vast difference between the civilian mode of Momotaro and his own personality, you know, having this bond with Haruka, not wanting to fight sort of thing, trying to help those and provide good fortune to people that come around. Yet when he does henshin, he's all about festivals, right? He's all about that festive attitude, partying, having a good time, laughing, and kicking women. It was just super weird to me that he would treat Haruka like that after she pledged her loyalty, if you will. But maybe there's a reason behind it that hasn't been explored as of yet. So we'll definitely have to see, because again, if you ask me, the whole idea of how these characters are coming across the sunglasses, I'm very much under the theory that the sunglasses provide some sort of negative energy or bad luck or whatever the case may be to anybody that acquires them. It feels like maybe when they do henshin, maybe there is another side to them that winds up being brought to the forefront. I really have no idea. It just feels like out of everybody, Don Momotaro feels significantly different than, say, a Sarubrother or a Kiji brother when they transform, right? So I do wonder if there is a much bigger picture in that. But I really enjoyed the partnership that we wind up getting between Haruka and Momotaro in here, as the search for the Black Thief in this episode certainly continues. And that's exactly who our monster of the week was. I believe that this was actually inspired this time off of Lupin Ranger. I am kind of curious if all the monsters this season in each episode will be inspired by a theme of a past Super Sentai team. Last week was Tokyuger. This week it is in fact a Lupin Ranger, as he's trying to steal the lights from people's households, if you will. I do love the fact that being introduced to the villain this week, we also got introduced to the third member of the Brain Persons or Brain People group in regards to Sononi is her name. We've seen Sonoi, the gentleman in blue. We've seen Sonoza, his partner, his buddy, that Oni's sister mistook for Momotaro last week. And this week we get ourselves a female member in Sonoi, or Sononi, excuse me, Sononi. All these S names is going to be driving me crazy this season, but really impressive outing if you ask me. I really enjoyed her personality, the first entrance that we get to see of just her legs and the stocking. Very sexy, to certainly say the least, but there is like a seductress attitude about her that finds herself almost granted. I think one of the things that we've learned about Sononi is the fact that she appreciates, or at least is drawn to, the concept and idea of love. It doesn't necessarily have to be anybody in particular, but the concept and the idea of love is something that she's certainly fascinated with. So when we see her approach the Black Bear Thief in here, she seems almost like she's kind of turned on, or at least approves of how much this guy is really falling into his grief and sort of embracing it. Her really sort of pushing him to kind of embrace it a little bit more, even to the point to where he does transform at the end. She's even complimenting him on like how adorable and cute of a monster he winds up turning out to be. But we quickly see that she winds up taking matters into her own hands and deleting him sort of permanently. And this is where the series does take a much more serious turn, because this isn't the first time that we've seen one of these brain people destroy these monsters sort of prematurely, but this is the first time that we've kind of seen the next step to what that's like for the human being, right? The first time we saw it, he just kind of digitized into dust, into the air, right, when Sonoi wind up killing him. But this time around, when Sononi winds up hitting him with the dart, I love the fact that we kind of see the aftermath of what happens to these human beings, as we got like a cube picture, him trapped in the cube, and then the cube itself winds up shattering, letting us know that they wind up actually killing the human host as well. And so that immediately winds up sort of changing the tone and the vibe of this episode, where Don Momotaro and the rest of the gang really see what Sononi wind up doing as pretty despicable and pretty low and dirty, to go ahead ahead and just sort of take somebody's life like that. And the fact that it pushes somebody like Don Momotaro to a place that I don't think we've ever seen him before, where he really takes things super serious and just really wants to sort of redeem the person that was certainly just lost. I thought it was a great action sequence between those two, very personal, to the point to where even Sononi is kind of like even complimenting Don Momotaro, or kind of curious as to what he looks like sort of under that mask, right? Still flirting with him. It's almost like the idea of death kind of amplifies her intimacy or her love or attractiveness towards somebody. It's really creepy, but it's a creepy seductress aspect of Sononi that I find really appealing. And she feels like she's, I don't want to say the most formidable of the brain people, but the fact that I feel like this is the most serious we've probably have taken these foes, considering the fact that they really have no reservations in destroying these human hosts, as long as it means killing these digital demons, if you will, or digital yokai. I find really interesting, and it definitely makes the brain people more fascinating to kind of see what their end game is and why they certainly have the mentality that they definitely do. So I was actually a really big fan of not only the Black Bear Thief, but also Sononi that wind up getting introduced in here. And fantastic costumes, man. Like anytime I see them henshin with their bracelets and stuff, I'm always really impressed by their the henshin sequences and the costume designs that they wind up coming up with so far in the entirety of this season. And speaking of the Black Bear Thief, one of the moments in this episode that I really enjoyed focused a lot on Sarubrother, as Sarubrother winds up bumping into Haruka along with Momotaro in this episode on yet another delivery package. But I love the idea of seeing Sarubrother sort of express himself, and very sort of Sherlock Holmesy in regards to doing his detective work and trying to figure out why the Black Bear Thief was certainly doing the things that he was, right? He was the first one to point out he's probably a regular delivery driver, and based off of some of the deliveries and who knows, the type of people that you meet throughout your day, which is what wound up bringing up Haruka's sort of flashbacks of some of the people that her and Momotaro wind up meeting on their deliveries, right? Like you never truly know who you're going to meet, and so it is possible that this delivery guy wind up bumping into somebody that maybe pushed him to get to this point where his grief or his feelings, if you will, sort of overtook him and wind up turning into something vastly dangerous. So that whole process of how these people even get to this particular point is a big mystery, and something that I definitely want to see explored and found out just a little bit more about, because I think the idea of Sarubrother bringing that to our attention, yeah, maybe he came across something or someone out there that's certainly changing these people. So I found that was pretty interesting. But when it comes to Sarubrother, I just love the way that he handles himself. Like I feel like Saru is probably going to drop a ton of just knowledgeable nuggets, some life information, some life advice, whether that be in the form of a haiku or whatever the case may be. He definitely feels like he's going to be the deep thinker of this group, and definitely I can see why people certainly refer to him as the professor, because I definitely do think he's going to help our team figure some things out and get out of some really bad struggles as the season progresses. But I really enjoy Sarubrother, somebody that mentions he hasn't had a job in his entire life. It seems as though people really come to him for simply just advice and to kind of hear how to handle situations. One person, I guess he was dealing with insomnia in this episode. He's like, I've counted a ton of sheep in my life and it's not helping me get any extra sleep. And I believe Sarubrother suggests, yeah, don't count sheep, but go ahead and count something else. And while I don't necessarily know how to pronounce the entire term that he wind up mentioning, the term that he actually was referencing, believe it or not, is an insect. It was a sap sucking insect, is what I looked up and found it over on Wikipedia. I can't pronounce the name of the insect itself, but he's telling the guy, instead of counting sheep, you should count insects instead. So I found that pretty interesting, to certainly say the least. But I think I'm really going to enjoy Sarubrother. And he also clarifies in here that when he henshins, he's not a gorilla, he's actually a monkey. It's a Japanese monkey. I believe I wrote it down. The Japanese Makakue, Macaque, Makakue. I believe it's it's a monkey. It's not necessarily a gorilla, in case you guys wanted to know. And he's under the impression that Oni's sister's costume is actually based off of a rabbit, which I thought it was actually pretty fun. She's like, now why would you say that, as she's hopping to try to avoid the enemy? So I actually thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, Sarubrothers definitely going to have a significant role in this season, to certainly say the least. When it comes to the action in here, really loved it. Once again, loved the moment between Momotaro and Haruka, where he's like, take the wheel, as he winds up turning into his alter mode, where the SD-topia sort of graphics kind of come back in, as he winds up having a little bit of a car chase in this episode, from delivery truck to delivery truck. I mean, yeah, talk about a eventful car chase, certainly there, to say the least. But the action looked great, man. I continue to love the impeccable Peach sort of team formation and team technique for their final attack. It looks great just watching it on screen. One of the things that really did jump out to me, though, I did find Kiji Brothers' transformation into ToQger pretty interesting. I am curious as to why they went with a female in pink and not a guy's figure in pink. The idea of Kiji Brother, who is a male, turning into a female with the skirt, I know they tried to, he still had his male voice when it came to the female figure that he was in. So I don't know if they were trying to play it up or not, but it looked very much like a female suit actor inside of ToQger pink suit. So for me, I will say this: I almost prefer the idea of him changing into ToQger pink, but in sort of a male form, because this again falls now into the idea of, this feels more gimmicky than anything else. The fact that we're just literally bringing back the Rangers as they are, instead of it being a representation of our characters wearing their suits, you know what I mean? And so it does feel like an anniversary gimmick thrusted into Don Brothers, when I don't necessarily feel it's very needed. But action wise, pretty great. We didn't have ourselves a Zord battle. Another great entrance in here with the And You Ride On bike. I thought that was pretty cool to see, even though he didn't necessarily get carried along in here. Just a great sequence of him coming through and having some fun with his bike, and the battle between Sononi and Don Momotaro was everything in here, if you ask me. So overall, man, really impressed with this episode here this week. I am kind of curious to know your guys' thoughts. If there's anything in particular that I certainly missed, please go ahead and definitely let me know what you guys think. If there is any quick honorable mention I will throw in here to sort of wrap up, it's the idea of maybe Kaido in this episode, as he recognizes towards the end that he can acquire the gears even when the monsters aren't destroyed in the correct way. I am wondering if that's what grabbed his attention, right? Because when he has picked up these gears, I believe the gears that Kaido has picked up have all been from when they're defeated correctly through the digital world, and he's acquired them. But I feel like this is the first time that a gear has popped up for him when say one of the brain persons or brain people wind up killing the digital yokai prematurely. So I am curious as to why Kaido is fascinated by that, and if it changes his mindset kind of going forward, because it feels like he's trying to collect these. So does this mean now that he isn't going to care how he collects them, as long as he can still collect them? You know what I mean? Like, I think he definitely knows more than he's certainly letting on. Like, there's a part of me that wants to think that he knows exactly who Haruka is. He knows exactly what Haruka's mission is. He probably knows who the Don brothers potentially are. And so I'm wondering if that's one of the reasons why he was perfectly okay with Haruka leaving work in order to spend the day with somebody like Momotaro, because he knows that connection is maybe something that needs to happen. I'm not quite sure, but I definitely am under the impression that Kaido certainly knows a lot more than he's certainly suggesting so far. But overall, man, I'm really impressed. Really love what we're getting so far, and if anything, didn't really care too much for the CGI characters, but I'm really not going to harp on them every episode. You guys know how I feel about it. If there's something that truly does impress me, or if there's something that really comes across as cringeworthy, I probably will bring it up or at least talk about it. But this episode, it was handled decently well, I guess, for the most part. And I think that's probably how DonBrothers is going to do it going forward. Like, there's a part of me that really doesn't think they're going to utilize the CGI characters in a lot of the fight sequences. If they do, it's literally going to be brief, 2-3 seconds. So it's not something that's completely obvious. You know what I mean? If you miss it, or catch it sort of thing, it might be that kind of situation. So we'll see what happens. But overall, 3 episodes in, loving what we're having, guys. But remember, these are just simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. And other than that, we'll certainly see you later on this weekend on A+ More Phenomenal live, going live Saturday at noon Central Time. But until then, do me a big favor, as always. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.